And you know what? I've been sitting here talking and I've been muted this whole time. So, um, yeah, let's start that again. Welcome to Enlightened Maven, is what I said in the beginning. Uh, Last time I was on here, we were discussing the confirmation hearings for RFK Jr. And it was the confirmation hearing day one was about 3 hours and like 40 something minutes, almost 4 hours. And we can continue going through that. I know we said that we were going to. However, the last video I made was well over an hour, and we got to maybe about 50 minutes of it. So it would, in turn, end up being like a part two, part three, potentially. And that doesn't even count the second day of the confirmation hearing or Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearings or anybody else's for that matter. So not a whole lot of people have the time to sit there and listen or watch that long of a confirmation hearing. So we do rely on our government officials to make the best choice for us. I just wanted to point out the ludicrousy of our governing body and the individuals whom we've elected to sit there and basically shout and yell at one another, and also point out portions of the truth or stretch things. We, the American people, are not stupid. We can go look up this information just like I looked it up in the last video for you. We are going to be looking at some other stuff today. I can finish out that video, finish out the confirmation hearings. If anybody wants to see those, please let me know. I thought maybe we would do maybe a shorter video today or maybe a couple of videos and just discuss what's going on in the world today, and see where we can get to. Hopefully my audio is working. I said let's not have any more technical difficulties this week, but unfortunately it looks like the technical difficulties on me because I forgot to hit my mute button. So let's get into it. Give me a second here. I'm going to switch my settings because it is just me. I don't have a production team. I don't have a co-writer or any of that. So, yeah, bear with me here while I switch things around. Make sure the volume's on in case you watch any videos from YouTube. Alright. Looks like I'm good. Give me a second here. Let me make sure the stream is on, which it looks like it, but if I can actually get into it here. Yeah, it looks like we are. Now, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you can see my screen here, you should be able to see that I have got YouTube up already. Breaking news, to Trump and the tariffs that he has placed on Mexico, China, and Canada. I am not too versed on tariffs. I kind of briefly know what they are. We're imposing taxes on other countries for when they import goods into our country, or basically when they come in. Now, there's a lot of people that are insisting that this is bad, that this is going to hurt us as American people, and that also, it's going to make things worse, is basically what they're saying. The other half is saying things, let me turn my volume down here. We are saying other things such as, this is going to be a good thing. Sorry, I'm echoing in my ear. But yeah, let's watch this video. Let's just see.
Did you know that you can create a fully functioning website in minutes using AI? Well, let me show you how. So first...
And they're very safe right now. They're home with their families. And we appreciate the hard work of a lot of people, including Rick Grinnell. We appreciate the cooperation from Venezuela. And we have some very happy people right now. Nobody thought that was going to happen. So they are home, they're safe, and they're with their families. That was a big one. Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal. What they've done is terrible. They violated the agreement. They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal. That was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen. And as far as other things are concerned, as you know, we had a very busy weekend. We're dealing with Israel. We're dealing with Ukraine and Russia. We have meetings and talks scheduled with various parties, including Ukraine and Russia. And I think those discussions are actually going pretty well. The discussions on the Middle East with Israel and various and sundry other countries are progressing. Bibi Netanyahu is coming on Tuesday, and I think we have some very big meetings scheduled.
President, do you feel that Elon Musk is delivering on his promises to you? Do you feel he's doing a good job right now with
I do.
All right, so this title is a little misleading. I mean, we're 2 minutes in, and he practically said nothing about the tariffs. I mean, we can continue watching it, or we can go look at the executive order for the tariffs, which we will get to by going to whitehouse.gov. Again, I know we went over this before. Let's look at the executive actions. Let's see if we can't find the one for the tariffs here. Well, that's an interesting title for an executive action. Limiting lame duck collective bargaining agreements that improperly attempt to constrain the new president. All right, let's sidetrack for a second here. Let's see what this is. Memorandum for the heads of the executive departments and agencies. This was January 31st, 2025. So this was, what, Friday? What is today? I don't even know what today is. Today's Monday the 3rd. So yeah, Friday. Okay, so this is a memorandum, not necessarily an executive order, but I guess if he signed it and sent it out, I guess it's technically still an executive order. Not quite sure. So don't quote me on that one. So this is a memorandum subject limiting lame-duck collective bargaining agreements that improperly attempt to constrain the new president. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Section 7301 of Title V United States Code, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Policy and Purpose. In the final days of the prior administration tenure, it purposefully finalized collective bargaining agreements, CBAs, with the federal employees in an effort to harm my administration by extending its wasteful and failing policies beyond its time in office. For example, the Department of Education negotiated a CBA on January 17, 2025, 3 days before I took office, that generally prohibits the agency from returning remote employees to their offices. Interesting. Such last-minute lame duck CBAs, which purport to bind a new president to his predecessor's policies, run counter to America's system of democratic self-government. CBAs quickly negotiated to include extreme policies on the eve of a new administration are purposefully designed to circumvent the will of the people and our democracy. Such CBAs inhibit the president's authority to manage the executive branch by tying his hands with inefficient and ineffective practices. The Supreme Court has explained that a president cannot choose to bind, this is a quote, the Supreme Court has explained that a president, quote, cannot choose to bind his successors by diminishing their powers, end quote. Therefore, it is the policy of the executive branch that CBAs executed in 30 days prior to the inauguration of a new president and that purport to remain in effect despite the inauguration of a new president and administration shall not be approved. Section 2, Standards for CBA Duration. A. No executive department or agency or agency employees shall make a CBA governing conditions of employment within 30 days prior to the change in president administration that 1. Creates a new contractual obligations. There goes my speech again. 2. Makes substantive changes to existing agreements. Or 3. Extends the duration of an existing agreement. B. Subsection A of this section applies to only the extent that its requirements do not prevent CBAs from rolling over under existing contractual provisions. C. To the extent that subordinate agency personnel have executed a CBA that violates the requirements of subsection A of this section, but the applicable agency head has not yet approved such agreement pursuant to 5 U.S.C. 7114C, such agency head shall promptly disapprove such agreement and it's inconsistent with the requirements of this memorandum. D. The requirements of this section do not apply to CBAs that primarily cover law enforcement officers, as that term is used in 18 U.S.C. 1515A4. Section 3. General provisions. A. Nothing in this memorandum shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1. The authority granted by the law to an executive department, agency, or the head therefore, or 2. The functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B. This memorandum shall be implemented consistent with the applicable law and subject to the availability of proportions. C. If the Federal Labor Relations Authority or court of competent jurisdictions issues a final judgment holding that Section 2D of this memorandum would prevent the memorandum from being considered a government-wide rule or regulations for purposes of 5 U.S.C. 7117 1A, Section 2D of this memorandum shall be served and rendered inoperative thereby and given no force or effect. D. This memorandum is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law, or inequity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. E. The director of the Office of Personnel Management is authorized and directed to publish this memorandum in the Federal Register. So basically, what it sounds like is going on, we can look up, this example that they gave on January 17th, 3 days before he took office, for the CBA that was listed. But it sounds like some of the things that were done during the last administration were done at the last minute and had verbiage in them that applied to carrying over into this administration. The whole point of getting a new president is so we're not continuing the same patterns that we did the 4 years before or the 8 years before. It's so that not one person has more power than necessary for longer than necessary. So far, the only president that I can think of, which we could probably look it up, that had more than a 2-year term or 8 years in office was President Washington. Our very first president, mind you. After President Washington, he declared basically that no president should go longer than the 2 terms. That was set into place. So that way we could reelect. I mean, yeah, President Washington was reelected and reelected and reelected, but also in the same point, they shouldn't be in there longer than 2. Now I know currently right now there has been talk of him going in for a 3rd term. Not quite sure how that's supposed to work, but is what it is. Anyway, back to looking into this. See if we can find those tariffs. I wonder if we can search. Oops, 1R. fact sheet. Fact sheet: President Donald J. Trump imposes tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. All right, so we've got a 25% additional tariff on imports from China and Mexico, and a 10% additional tariff on imports from China. Energy resources from China will have a lower than 10% tariff, looks like. And then it goes on to explain leveraging. I just, unless somebody can correct me when I'm wrong, I feel like I've had this discussion before with other people. And here, let me get this off the screen. You guys don't need to watch that. Woo! You're there. All right. You don't need to see two of me. Okay. So, from my understanding, tariffs, yes, while they're going to be higher for these countries and is going to potentially make the cost of our goods go up, why would we continue to buy those goods then? Why wouldn't we buy goods here in the United States that are cheaper because they're made here in the United States by U.S. workers? So, in theory, not even in theory, in practicality, what tariffs are ultimately supposed to do is supposed to dissuade companies that are in our country from purchasing goods from outside of our country. Why wouldn't we want to give work to the American people? Why wouldn't we want work for ourselves? We're constantly talking about the unemployment rate. Unemployment's still high. Unemployment this, and people can't find jobs. Well, if people can't find jobs, why aren't we bringing the manufacturing back here? Why aren't we bringing products back here? Why aren't we doing that ourselves? And for the people who sit there and say that nobody wants to do those jobs, where do you guys live that nobody wants those jobs? Because if you run out of unemployment, or you no longer qualify for financial assistance from the government, you no longer get Social Security because you're no longer disabled, and you're looking for a job, or maybe even lost your job because, I don't know, they shut down or they decided to take their business elsewhere. Whatever the case may be, you're going to take what you can get. So to say people won't work in these factory jobs is just crazy. Or is it the simple fact that companies would rather go overseas, pay for cheap labor, not even talking about child labor, but pay cheaper? Because I have an anecdotal story for that one, just like anybody else does. I lost a job at a call center many, many years ago because the call center decided to take their call center to the Philippines because they only had to pay the workers over there about between $3 and $5 an hour. And we were making at minimum $10 an hour. And without the tariffs being high, it was cheaper for cost of business to go overseas. And then there's more money in corporate hands. So there's a lot of questions that are unanswered when you hear things like the American people don't want to do that work. That's just not true. American people do want that work. They do want to do those things. They do want to support their family. They don't have the ability. Around where I live, there used to be a huge Ethan Allen. When Ethan Allen used to be popular back in the 90s, 80s. And then they took their business elsewhere to bigger cities. We're talking about, farms and immigration, and people constantly are saying, well, who's going to do these things? The American people will. You pay the American people the money that they deserve and that they're working for, and they will do it. And in many cases, they'll do it regardless. I know people who stay in their jobs way longer than what they should because they need the money. So even if it's minimum wage, they'll still do it. They'll take a crappy job until they can get something better, to put food on the table for their families. Not everybody can be a social media influencer. Not everybody can sit here online and talk to you all day long or send you clips. And as easy as that sounds, it's not easy for everyone to sit here and talk to people. Um, it's not easy to say the truth and to have a conversation. So, if you watch my videos, we're going to continue and we're going to continue to talk about these things. I have other channels, I have other social media things, or other things that I do. Um, I have my own website, I'm working on my own store. Um, I handcraft things. I'm trying not to rely on anybody else to sustain me and my family. So, you know, come support my channel, support small YouTubers, support small TikTok influencers, support us so we can spend our money in our local communities, which is what I do. I buy locally. I try to only go to Walmart 3 times a year if I can help it. Um, I want to go to the local mom and pop shops. I want to spend my money locally. I want to grow locally, do things locally. Um, and I understand that a lot of individuals who live in the city don't, have the ability to do this because you live in a city and you have limited resources. Well, we have limited resources in the country, but where do you think your food comes from? Where do you think your products come from? Somebody is bringing it to you. Somebody is making it. Somebody is planting it. Somebody's growing it. Somebody's harvesting it. It's not just coming from the stores. I've seen TikToks and YouTubers of people confused why the stores are short and they could just go to the store and buy food. They don't have to grow it. But somebody does. It doesn't just magically show up to the store. It's coming from somewhere. So, like, let's communicate. Let's talk about these things. Like, if somebody doesn't know, let's talk about it. Not in a judgmental way, not in a I know more than you kind of way. It's compassion, understanding that not everyone grew up in the same way that you did. It doesn't matter. Like, if they don't know, they don't know. And if you do, then talk about it. Don't educate. Don't act like you know everything, but talk about it. Just bring up the conversations. Um, this day and age, not a lot of people want to talk about things like that. They don't want to do it. They'd rather not rock the boat. They'd rather not have these conversations and get into it, quote, with people on the left, people on the right. I myself, I'm not on the right, I'm not on the left. I like to say I'm right in the middle. I like to come to compromises. I like to have the same end goal as the people I'm working with, whether they're on the right, whether they voted for Kamala Harris, whether they voted for Trump. It does not matter. What matters is the goals. And right now, looking through social media, looking through YouTube, it is very hard to see a common goal until the election, when the common goal was putting the American people first. And what is wrong with putting American people first? How can we take care of other countries if we can't take care of ourselves first? That's like saying, I'm going to take care of everybody that I work with outside of my home before I take care of my family. Why would I do that? Why would I take care of everybody else before myself? I can't help somebody else if my cup is empty. So we need to get into a better position where we have less unemployment, we have lower cost of goods and services, we have less homeless, we have more housing. There are things that we need to do as American people before we continue to help others. And I feel like if we look at history, we can look back at that and see that that's what we did first. We focused on America. We focused on starting America, our government starting everything. And then people started coming over. They started coming through Ellis Island. They started getting visas. They started coming over here to work. They started coming over here to, unfortunately, be slaves. Um, Not just from Africa. We had Irish slaves, we had Chinese slaves, we had Indians. We had all sorts of people who were indentured servants, I should say. Let's call them indentured servants because slavery is still a thing today. It wasn't just back then, it's still going on in some other countries. Um, and if we're worried about slavery and what it has done, what is it still doing? And how are we supposed to help them if we can't help ourselves, if we can't move past this ourselves? So let's come together as the American people. Let's have conversations. Let's talk. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video. We're going to continue talking about the things that are coming up on a daily basis. If anybody has any more information about tariffs, or maybe can type it out and explain it to me better, by all means, drop a chat down there. Drop a chat. I will read them. Like, subscribe, share. Even if you don't come back and watch my videos all the time, subscribe. I'd say turn on your notification bell, but I don't even do that myself. I don't like notifications, but at least subscribe. All right, thanks. Peace out, guys. I'll see you on the next one.